Each year, over 3 million children are reported abused or neglected in America.
Everybody should be treating children in a nurturing, multidisciplinary way. It's better for the child, it's better for the non-offending family, it's better for our society.
Child abuse costs us $124 billion per year in the United States.
What we need to understand is that we have over 6 million kids in our nation that are impacted by child abuse and neglect every single year.
Our mission at Wynona's House is to create a national platform and to raise awareness of child abuse and neglect.
It was the work of Wynona's House that really caught my attention. You listen to the work that they do, that they're involved in this holistic program of healing children that have been the victims of sexual or physical abuse. How could you not want to be involved? How could you not want to help?
The vision of Wynona's House is to create a community where children are safe, families are strong, and victims become children again.
I think, as Hillary Clinton said, you need a village to raise a child, and it's incumbent upon all of us to come forward when we're dealing with issues of child abuse. It's a major problem, cultural problem, social problem, and we all have to take part in order to hopefully put this to rest.
My name is Nancy Erica Smith. I was the first chair of the board of Wynona's House when it became a nonprofit. I got involved with Wynona's House at the beginning with some amazing women. Senator Wynona Littman, the first African American female senator in New Jersey, got the original funding for Wynona's House. And basically, Wynona's House began because we learned what we were doing wrong.
And back then we knew that we needed something for children to be able to have a holistic approach to dealing with child abuse, and that too often children were subjected to multiple interviews and very kind of diverse types of services out there. We knew that we had to do better, that we had to have a coordinated system where all the services could be in one location.
And so we have DCPMP, we have the RDTC who does the mental health evaluations and the medical evaluations. We have Essex County Prosecutor's Office, and we have very different members here that do a lot of valuable work.
What is impressive about Essex County is the co-location of all the partners, the ability for us to communicate on a daily basis, for the children to get the appropriate services in a timely manner. And having the Regional Child Abuse Diagnostic and Treatment Center at Wynona's House I have seen great improvements in the treatment that the children receive.
You hear about these cases, you hear about them through the news media, you hear about them through reading about them, maybe even on the internet. But with us, it stops. For them, that trauma, and for their family, that trauma lives on. And what this center does is it gets to the whole family and it tries to stop the trauma from living.
We wanted to create a child-centered environment that was nurturing to children, that didn't re-traumatize them, and that treated the non-offending family as a whole. So having a forensic interview on videotape stopped the repeated interviews. It meant that the child wasn't going to a police station. It was an environment where the various disciplines that deal with child abuse come together: the social workers, the therapists, the doctors, the prosecutors, the police and investigators. And by working together, we made it easier on the child. The child was always the focus.
This is the observation room, and in here we're watching the child interview happen through the monitor, and it's a live shot. So we have a technician who sits on board, and they control the camera to zoom in or zoom out if something needs to be focused in on. Alongside from the technician, we have an assistant prosecutor who's here to review the case and see if there's any questions that they need to be answered. They're here on board.
By having everything at one location, it becomes much more easy for the parents or guardians of the children to be able to deal with the crisis as well. And by taking this holistic approach, we deal not only with the child, but with the family, because we understand that the crisis that the child's undergoing is really a family crisis, and we try to treat them all together.
By videotaping the child, it made a big difference in terms of many times getting a plea that the offender would plead guilty, because you could see the child and hear what happened. And it's very different when you show to a jury or a judge a 10-year-old, then 3 years later you have a 13-year-old telling the story. So the videotapes was very important to the prosecution as well as to the child.
It is, I think, great to be able to do something for a child, to be able to do something for someone who essentially can't help themselves.
Children are invisible no more. So that everybody is aware of the type of epidemic that we are suffering as a nation. And so that together, collectively, we can come together and we can help our children be victims no more, but become to heal and become children again.
I once stood before a young girl who was on the verge of bringing an end to her life. I stared into her eyes, and I watched as she drowned herself in tears of pain, tears of shame and hurt. She looked straight into my eyes, and I could feel the weight of her helplessness and confusion. She cried out in desperation, asking for an explanation as to why her life had been filled with so much anguish. She thought about the nightmares that were her constant nocturnal companion, nightmares that wouldn't allow her to forget. She remembered waking up in sweaty sheets, feeling the cold, gripping fingers of her memories as they violated her again and again. The cold tentacles of terror that came over her each and every time as she relived the agony of being dishonored. Every brutal strike and every hurtful word. Even though she held her hands up to cover her ears, she could still hear every dreadful word ever spoken to her. The voices echoing against the emptiness of her hollow heart. No matter how many tears she shed, they couldn't wash away the suffering of her soul. The weight of abuse had become unbearable to her. Too much for her to carry alone. The girl I saw was me, peering into a mirror. Invisible no more.